What's up, everybody? Ramey here, otherwise known as Dr. Ray. And today we're talking about is the cheat code for portfolio pieces. I get lots and lots of messages from people on LinkedIn and on Facebook and on Twitter asking me how I'm developing a portfolio piece. What should it include? Like, what topics should it be? And I did a video on topics. What software should it be? And I've done videos on like popular instructional design software. But the other question that I get is what should actually be included in each of these pieces? And what I want to do is I want to talk about when you're designing a piece. Like, let's say, for example, I know I'm developing a piece in Articulate Storyline or Adobe Captivate, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to develop one piece of my portfolio is going to be a piece of Articulate e-learning. What does that mean? How do I do that? What do I include in that? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you how to structure that piece so that it actually does the things that I look for when I'm looking to hire people, so that it does the things I look for when I'm looking at my students who are going to graduate their portfolio, those pieces. A caveat to all this is I should say a portfolio is only one piece of your job application. Your resume, like your educational background and your experience, are what gets you the interview. Once you've interviewed and you're like down to the top 3 and they're like, these people are all qualified, they start caring a lot more about your portfolio. That's not always the case, obviously, but in general, when I talk to hiring managers, that is what they do. All right, just so you know that, because there is this focus on, I only need a portfolio and I'm an instructional designer, and that's not true. So get that out of your head if it's in there. Okay. Having said that, cheat code for portfolio pieces. What should they do? Anyone who's a good instructional designer is going to know all this stuff and want to include all this stuff in the portfolio piece, but I'm going to go through and give you the quick and dirty cheat code to developing portfolio pieces. All right. When people ask me this question, what should I include in my portfolio piece? After they've, decided everything, like what software they're going to use and stuff, there are 4 main components, 4 things that I want to see. When I look at a portfolio piece, I basically look at these 4 things and say, are these in this? When I look at an e-learning module, I'm going to evaluate it. I say, are these 4 things here? I'm looking at it real quick as a portfolio. Are these 4 components here? That's what I'm giving you. All right. So the first thing, as I look at a portfolio piece, I say to myself, what is the problem this is solving? 1. I mean, that's not even doing it. That's just coming up with the problem. But it's the most important part. There's got to be a problem you're solving. What is the problem this piece of e-learning this person created? What is the problem it solved? Why did they create this? Why? What is it? What is the problem? Okay, that's step 1. Step 2. How is it organized? How did they organize this? They're developing an e-learning module. How did they organize it? What do I mean by that? I mean what's called an organizational strategy. How did they organize this? An example organizational strategy is Gagne's 9 events. Tell me, usually there's like a document or a paragraph that describes the portfolio piece. So we have that. Here's what the problem is. Here's what this is about. Next, here is how I organize this piece of training. I used Gagne's 9 events. Perfect. Good. So that we have an organizational strategy. You need to have in that piece of e-learning some kind of introduction. In the introduction, if we're going through Gagne's 9 events, like we get the learner interested, we tell the learner objectives, we stimulate prior knowledge. Okay, so that's the intro. Then we have some kind of content presentation where we actually teach them something, right? Then we have some kind of assessment or knowledge check. And then we have some kind of, here's how this applies to your job, that transfer piece, the what's next. All right, so step 2 is how did you organize this and why did you organize it the way you did? Why did you choose that? As simple as looking at the research and picking a model, which is the easiest thing to do. Don't just do it blindly and say, oh, I developed this piece, here it is. And I'm like, well, why did you organize it like this? And they're like, I don't know. I thought because of my experience and because of this. No. What informed you to make those decisions in your organization of this module? All right, that's step 2. Step 3, how is it being delivered? I don't mean like what software am I using? We've already decided that. How are you delivering this? This is referred to as your delivery strategy. Now, what I mean by that is a bunch of different things, so I'm going to break it down for you. The first thing, so am I focusing on something like introducing, so general delivery strategy is like implementing Keller's ARCs, like a motivation model into it. So part of my delivery strategy is making sure that this is motivating for the learners, and here's all the stuff I did to actually do that. Next thing, part of my delivery strategy is the content, and that is what am I actually doing to get people to learn? So remember in Gagne's 9 events, I said, or in that beginning, the organizational strategy tells me to present content. Now we're in the delivery strategy. How are we actually doing it? How are we presenting? How are we getting people to learn? How are we getting people to learn? What are you doing? Problem-based learning, knowledge checks, gamification, direct instruction, chunking, video snippets, whatever it is. What are the things you are doing to get people to learn? What are the strategies, types of media? What are you doing to get people to learn? Okay, how are they learning? Because if they're not learning, I might as well just hand someone a document that says, here's all the information, right? And they just read it. Because if I'm not actually doing anything, any kind of strategy to get someone to learn something, a document is just as good as just an encyclopedia article that just has, or a website that just has everything listed there. Like, I may as well just give them that if I'm not actually training them. So how are you getting them to learn? All right, and then we have, how are we going to assess them? Or what kind of checks are there in this? Like tests, assignments, projects, like what is it that I would have learners do if they were going through this module? Is it just some knowledge checks? What is it? What is the check though? Because as I look through portfolio pieces, I want to see that you can develop an assessment. Assessment development is not an easy task. I have teachers that have been teaching for 20 years take my assessment course and they're like, oh my God, I never knew any of this stuff. Assessment is not simple. That's why people who develop assessments like the SAT are paid like a lot of money to develop those questions. They are not easy. And that's just one type of assessment. So, and then finally, delivery strategy, like what else am I including, or what do I tell learners will be a part of this portfolio piece? Like, job aids, simulations, sandbox, like how am I, so as I said, part of my organization was that what next transfer. Part of the delivery strategy is how am I actually doing it? Like drills, simulations, future things that they're going to be doing. All right, so that's the third thing. So we have, how do you solve the problem is number 1. How am I organizing this portfolio piece? How am I delivering this portfolio piece? And finally, how am I developing it? And I don't mean software again. I mean, what's informing my development decisions? It's called, otherwise referred to as my development strategy. What is informing the decisions I'm going to make when I develop this portfolio piece? And there are a couple things. So first, a main one we all use in instructional design is the multimedia principles by Richard Mayer, right? The multimedia principle, which says images and texts are verbal and nonverbal information is better than just verbal information. Images and text are better than just text to help with cognitive learning, right? And all the other multimedia principles, such as the modality effect, the segmenting principle, all that good stuff that he has. Split attention principle. Considering all this, so which multimedia principles did I consider for this instruction? Then we have design theory from graphic design, which tells us how to actually create the interface. Why did you make the decisions you made? And when I say, why do your buttons look the same, or why do they not look the same? You say design theory, because of, repetition in design theory. So as part of design theory, we have alignment, repetition, contrast, hierarchy, balance. You should know design theory if you're developing this, but as you make those decisions to develop your interface, we use design theory to help us make those decisions. And finally, the other piece of development that we consider is our color scheme. So color theory. Why do we choose these complementary colors, these contrasting colors? Why do they go together? So every decision, so those are my, that's the cheat code. Every decision that you've made in your portfolio piece, every single decision, down from the buttons you chose, the colors you chose, the way you organized everything, the type of strategies you used to get someone to learn, should be backed by something. Every decision. And when I'm looking at your portfolio piece, I want to see, or I'm going to ask you during the interview, why did you make this decision here? And I want to hear what informed your decision. Not, I thought chunking was really cool. I've heard the term gamification and it's really neat. Or I decided to put this case in here. Why did you use a case? I did it to get people to learn. And I did it because, you know, it's part of the way I deliver content. Okay. But why did you not include goals? I don't know. Well, what informed your organization of this training? I don't know. Yeah, that person's not getting hired. So you have to know that stuff. But those are the big things. So first thing I look for is, did they solve some kind of problem? How did they organize this? What did they use to develop the content? Like why, how are they delivering it? Like how are they getting people to learn? And then the fourth thing is, what are their development strategies? Like why did they make all the decisions I see on the screen? Like why are buttons here and why is an image at the top? Or why are all those decisions made? And they have to have an answer for it for the interview. So that's why you use this. So hopefully this helps you guys who are new. For those of you who are practicing instructional designers or even in my graduate program and taking my classes or whatever, hopefully this is a good like refresher for you because those refreshers are always important. And hopefully those of you that are new, it gives you guys something to say, oh, I didn't know that thing existed. I better just look that up right now. Good, go look it up. That's why the education piece matters so much when you're going to apply for these jobs, because I want to see that people have this stuff. That's why companies come to us to hire people, because they're looking for people who have this knowledge already. They're not just guessing. So that's my cheat code for developing portfolio pieces. When I'm developing a portfolio piece, I put them together for my company, or if my students, someone asks me, these are the basic things I'm looking for when I look at that piece. All right, y'all? Got any questions? Let me know. Later, everybody.